Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Non-Classics. This episode number 3382, Doubleshot number 3276. Got two Star Trek trades for you. The second one is actually the third to last trade for his series. First up we have Star Trek by Mike Johnson, Volume 2, which contains issues 5 through 8. The first two issues are a remake of the final episode of Season 1 of the original series, where basically the Enterprise in the original Operation Annihilate, they went to this planet where the governor was actually Kirk's brother, Sam. And this is where we had the television debut not only, Sam was already dead by the time they arrived, but we did have debut of Kirk's nephew, Peter, a character who never did get live action after this, except for some fan stuff and books. Here, apparently Sam left Earth at some point and disappeared, and he's on this planet. He's not technically the governor of this planet per se. He is alive, unlike in the original episode where he actually died. His wife does die, like he does in the original story, and Kirk finds out that he's an uncle. Yeah, he finds out he's an uncle, of course, so he has a second generation Kirk on his hand. Actually, more like a third generation Kirk. Basically, unlike in the case of the original series where Kirk and Sam were on pretty good terms, they were not here where they were estranged because of the death of their mother. That was simply the reason for it. And throughout this, yes, they do similar things in the original episode with the creatures. The fact that Spock become briefly blind. That's kind of the gist of the thing. It's very similar to that. It's just that the biggest difference is that Sam is alive by the end of the story, and he goes off to do his own thing with Peter. No mention of Big Math this, I remember. The very next story is interesting, because the very next story, however, if I can find the name of this. I know it involves the Romulans. Yes, it involves, of all people, the Romulans. And the arc itself is basically a follow-up with, as it's called Vulcan's Vengeance, where Starfleet finds out that the Romulans of this universe are trying to recreate the red matter. Yes, also we see Chekhov and Spock playing 3D chess. They go to a station. I think this, and then of course we had the Vulcans appear, and and then basically this involves the Romulans, who, and I kind of blame this on the movie, because I should point out though in the original series, the Romulans actually had hair. They weren't bald. The whole bald Romulan thing, that was something Nero did. And somehow that influenced the Romulans to shave their heads. For reasons. So we have a renegade Vulcan. Actually, yeah. And here's a Romulan. Yeah. That is a Romulan, the guy with the ball with the tattoo and the pointy ears. Yes, that is a Romulan in this Ultimate Prime timeline, otherwise known as the Kelvin timeline. And also, these Romulans are working with Sarek. Okay, now here's the thing. Did Sarek ever go to Romulus in the original series? No, he never did. He never stepped foot in Romulus in any of his appearances. Florida, he never went to Romulus at all. The whole thing of him going to Romulus in this continuity is completely original. So, then with two Romulus, it's Kirk, McCoy, and Spock, who was undercover as a Romulan. Which I do appreciate them recreating the uniforms in the series here, which good enough for that. So basically Kirk crossing the lines of the neutral zone to go into Romulan space. That did happen before in the Enterprise incident. You could say this story is a loose remake of it, but that's the only aspect they brought from it. And the fact that Kirk, in case you're probably asking, has Kirk ever been the Romulus in the original continuity? The answer is no. He never did go there. Only in this continuity he does. And also, he set foot on Romulus. Something Prime Timeline Kirk never did. Also, here's a weird fun fact. Did you know Kirk in the original series never went to Kronos? You're like, what? Yeah, he never went to Kronos or Romulus the entire series. Yeah, basically here's put on trial for cross-border for possible invasion, but the reason why is because of the red matter. Yes, the Romulans are attempting to create the very same device that in this universe destroyed Vulcan, and they're working with Sarek on this, which also in the Prime timeline destroyed Romulus. Well, actually, basically a supernova did that, but basically red matter. So, yeah, and thanks to a bunch of stuff where we had the Kirk where he breaks out, fights the Romulans, fights Emma's fact that, yeah, he was trying to stop them from doing something really stupid. And, well, as basically for his apology, he is allowed to leave, and Sarek is banished from Romulus. I'm like, okay, now, you might be asking this particular question. Who was the first Starfleet character to ever appear on Romulus? The answer is Dr. Bashir in Deep Space Nine. As a matter of fact, here's the weird thing. Romulus itself never appeared in the original series. I'm sure it was mentioned, but never appeared. Here's one. Did Romulus ever appear in Next Generation? Nope. Did it appear in Deep Space Nine? It did. For one episode. It was a follow-up to Pale Moonlight. It was basically during, I think it was season 6 of the show, when they, I think it was season 6, I think it was, where this also was, I think it was also the penultimate episode to feature Salone, the guy who's the director of Section 31. Let's see. In their on Voyager, it actually appeared for a really good two-parter Enterprise, where mostly they reused the sets from Nemesis. That's kind of what they did with that one. But, okay, so you're probably thinking, for Picard, impossible, due to the fact that it takes place after the events of the Kelvin movie, where it acknowledges the canon. So Romulus is basically destroyed. So, the only way Picard ever went to Romulus was actually in Nemesis. We actually have foot in the Romulan Senate. Actually, yeah, he did. I almost forgot. He did go to Romulus in the Next Generation. He did. In Unification Part 1 and 2. Kind of forgot he did. But Voyager never did. Mainly because the Romulans were not really featured very much on Voyager. Very rarely they were. I think they featured maybe like 2-3 episodes. It wasn't like a really big thing with Voyager because they're off Delta Quadrant, obviously. They had a good number they had an okay number of clean episodes. For Romulan stuff in Enterprise, this happened a handful of times. I would say the Romulans are more. You're probably thinking, how many times the Romulans appear in the original series? They appeared a total number of 2 times. Balance of Terror and the Enterprise incident. In Next Generation, just the 2-part Unification Part 1 and Part 2. Deep Space Nine, for 1 episode. They were featured a few times, but that was it. And in the case of Enterprise, only for that 2-parter involving the Romulans, which actually was a 3-parter. It was a way to draw 3 species into conflict, which I think it was the Andorians, the Tellarites, And I think it was the Vulcans to basically draw into war with each other. And also the Virgilians for some reason. They're alien species who very rarely are featured on the show. I don't really remember exactly in Star Trek what exactly they look like. I know there's Rigelians. I know the planets exist. As a matter of fact, there's 10 freaking planets. And the fact that it was mentioned in the novels that Rigel 2 basically was a forbidden planet. No outside system can actually go to Rigel 2 for reasons. It does exist, but no one can go there for some reason. Maybe it's stick around. But this was really good. It was really enjoyable to see Spock go undercover as basically a Romulan. It was really cool for that one. I give that book a 9 out of 10. Next up we have is Star Trek New Visions. Volume 6, which contains issues 15 and 17 of the series. First we have the Traveler. This basically is a guy who just claims to be a traveler, and he does updates to the ship. One update, the Enterprise does keep for the rest of the series, that being this sort of holographic display in the engineering. So Spock, of course, basically turns out that these people are like, oh, the ship he stole was an Earthshare of theirs, and they claim the fact that he's a human, despite the fact he's really not. And Kirk, basically, after the whole ordeal is over with, he's like, Mr. Scott, please move all the enhancements by the Traveler. He's like, okay, but there's one I really want to keep, and it's obviously the holographic display, which he keeps for the remainder of the comic book. He never had it in the show, but it was really cool. Let's see. It was a really fun story. Let's see. And the way these Traveler, it's like the Traveler himself. It's like the way that John Byrne wrote this comic. It's like the Traveler, the way he's dressed. He looks very eccentric and smiling. I had this weird suspicion that he is a stand-in for the Doctor from Doctor Who. And you're probably thinking, and these little creatures here who say terminate could obviously be a loose stand-in for the Daleks. It's a very weird one. And then we have one where Janice Reed goes, and of course, her runs to Janice Reed at some facility. So, oh yeah, and also they refer to her as Nicoya, which is something in the original series they never went by her first name. Very rarely in the Kelvin movies they do. It's a brief 2-part story, and Janice wants to go back to the Enterprise. You're probably thinking, like, why in universe did she leave the ship? The rumor was that the evil Kirk got her pregnant. But they say she got married to somebody else. Behind the scenes, the reason why the actors moved from the show, why the actors left, though she came back in the movies a couple times. The reason why that she left, behind the scenes, the actors that played Janice, allegedly, and this has not been proven, she claimed one of the producers assaulted her. Yes, sexually assaulted her. And what's the producer's response for this claim? Fired from the show. Yeah. Then we have this timey-wimey thing where Kirk is like in this Groundhog Day thing, you're revisiting stuff that's already happened. It's a very weird story. Also, we get, get this. We actually have John Byrne recreating the popular image of the Enterprise being destroyed from the movies. Kind of interesting today. Though in this basically do hint at what happens next, basically. Yeah, it turns out this whole thing was just like, oh, I think it's basically like he's going to attack them, but not really, no. But yeah, Janice appears in a science uniform. Yes. You think he would? I thought she was a yeoman. No, she's a lieutenant now. Yeah, that was something. It's like the story was hinting at her return to the Enterprise, which she does. And then we have Janice come back, and everything is slowly integrating. And then we have Sue interact with the cat lady from the animated series, who this photograph comic has a weird Photoshop effect with her. You're thinking, what the heck is that? What is Sue interacting with? That is the cat alien who occasionally plays to her on the animated series. Yep. Like, first is a three-arm guy, and then we have this. They have all ages frozen. Where nothing is working, and it's a weird story about like freezing effects and just weird stuff. It's nothing really high home about for this one. It was the last story published in this trade. I think it was issue 17. It's a weak story. I like the first couple stuff here, but this is very weak. But yeah, I give basically New Visions a 8.5. It feels like we have a step down from the last trade. Yeah. So, that is pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up we have is, well, Commander's X. We'll talk about it next, okay? Next video. Bye.